Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, good afternoon. It's Tuesday, which means it's Tom Coates Day here in Max World, and we thank you for being here. You may be listening to this on a podcast at some point in the future. We do have shows that we repeat, especially the ones that we think are extra good and shows that you'll enjoy. I think today will be that kind of day. Here live, we are 2 days before Thanksgiving and 3 days before the Nebraska-Iowa slaughter. But we do appreciate. I mean, don't you think it'll be like 72-0, don't you think?
I'll take that line, Mac.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you. I'll be honest with you.
Nebraska minus 72. How much are we going to go on that one?
I'll be honest with you. The way Nebraska's playing and the way Iowa's playing, this could be an upset. Iowa could come into Lincoln and beat us.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I think there'll be an underdog, probably less than a touchdown. I haven't seen the line.
Oh,
but,
wait, did you see that? That was a pig flying. Yeah, like that's going to happen. So, because you're a Nebraska fan.
No.
You're a Hawkeye fan?
Well, if they're not playing Iowa State, I like to see Iowa win. And like last week when they pulled out that victory against Michigan, they were down 21 to 7, and I thought it was all over, and they came back to win. I was pleased.
Well,
a diehard Cyclone fan is heartened when Iowa loses. A diehard Hawkeye fan is pleased and he smiles when Iowa State gets the butt kicked. I like it when both of them win, but if Iowa State is playing Iowa, I go for Iowa State.
But the only thing you wager are cigars, and I don't smoke cigars. So I think we'd have to do like a sandwich at B&B or something.
Okay, all right,
like
let's do something like that. Now, how many points are you going to give me if I take Iowa?
I'm not a gambler. I don't do it's either W or L.
No.
No.
I'd
you
have
either
to
win or lose. Either you're the winner or the loser.
It's at Nebraska. If we're going to make a bet, I'm going to have at least 7 points.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, then we ain't going to do it.
Okay, fine. Leave my studio. There's the door.
Now, the next time where the things are in my favor and I say it's an even money bet, then we'll do it.
No, I don't ever do points. I've never done that.
Okay.
All right, let's get down to business today. We have a lovely young lady by the name of Amelia Lobo. You said like the animal?
Yes.
What's
a wolf?
A wolf.
A wolf.
Yeah.
Now, is that just the another language's name for the wolf, or is it a different kind of canine?
No, it's Spanish for wolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Amelia, and we're going to get to know her a little better as we talk about what her passion is, but she is originally from Costa Rica, moved here when she was 18, has lived in Iowa for 5 years, spent many years in the Big Apple, and one of the things I want to talk to her about in the program is the difference between, there's a lot of difference between New York and Iowa, but that cultural shock of when you move here. And but here's what Amelia does. She's a very passionate woman. She works for the Iowans for Social Economic Development, all right? And your specific groove is the Women's Business Center.
That's right.
And you help men and women, but mainly women.
We'd like to say women and men.
Women. Are you a feminist? And you help with business education, startups, growing their business. You have scholarships for your services, as well as many services are free. And one of the reasons I had her on with you, because we're small business people.
Sure.
I mean, Without people like Amelia, I mean, you had an Amelia somewhere along the line. I know.
No, I probably should have had an Amelia somewhere along the line. I could have maybe saved myself some pain and suffering along the way.
Well, I had my Amelia. His name was Dave Milligan. He was the banker over at West Bank, and without Dave, I don't know where I'd be today. I wouldn't have done many of the things I did, right or wrong. But where does this passion come from? Because you are passionate about this. This is not just a job you do.
Yes, no, it isn't. I grew up in Costa Rica, and very early on in my life was exposed to poverty, even though my parents were fairly well off. I think when you grow up in a developing nation, you can't escape the sight of poverty. And so when I went to college, I decided to major in economics and study economic development. And originally my focus was really on international economic development. But after living in New York for a number of years, I became really interested in poverty and economic development in the United States.
Do we Iowans really know what poverty is?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
I think one of the things that you mentioned some of the differences between Iowa and New York City. I think one of the big differences between an area that is predominantly rural versus an urban area is that poverty is much more hidden, or can be much more hidden in rural areas. You don't necessarily see it as much, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are people here and within our community that live in poverty. Is it the same as the poverty in parts of the third world where they don't have running water and have very poor health? Maybe not.
Well, is rural or urban poverty more difficult to negotiate from the individual standpoint? If I'm poor on a certain level of income, do I want to live in a rural area, or do I want to live in an urban area?
That's a really great question, and I'm not an economist or a rural economist, so I don't know that I could give you the answer to that. But it seems to me that when you live in a rural area, a lot of times you are much further away from resources that can help you.
True, but I'm thinking about Iowa here, Amelia, and I'm from a small town in southern Iowa called Corden, Iowa, and they have it's one of the more lower income areas of the state. And I do see that there's a lower standard, lower cost of living, a lower standard of living. I think you can live less expensively in some of these areas, and there's a certain closeness and camaraderie that you might have a hard time duplicating in the urban area. So the infrastructure is here and so forth for the people in poverty, but I think there's some advantages being in the rural area as well. It would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right in saying that the cost of living is much lower in some of our communities. The problem, I would say, is that a lot of times we have communities that have a difficulty in creating jobs or creating good jobs, and so it's difficult to stay within those communities and have a job that can help you pull out of poverty. So there's definitely a balance there. I would agree with what you're saying. Amelia
Lobo is our guest. She is what's your title? Director?
Director, yes.
Okay, you're the director of the Women's Business Center. You just stepped in front of my camera. We just saw your back.
Well,
okay, fine.
The only time
Ryan, doing your job.
You see what I did?
No.
He put my microphone down.
Now you can see her face.
Oh, well, you're quite the producer there, Mr. Coates. I appreciate that.
I could have waited for the break, but it just bothered me. The audience couldn't see her face.
The OCD was just driving you crazy, wasn't it? So Amelia is the director of the Women's Business Center, which helps mainly women, some men, get business educations, start and grow their businesses. So if you can mention the name, that's fine. But if not, can you talk to me about a business that you've helped here in Iowa? And again, you don't have to mention the name, just kind of what you did with it from start to current.
Well, we have a business here that's a restaurant in Des Moines. And actually, I can absolutely tell you the name of the restaurant. It's Patton's Restaurant.
Patton's?
Patton's.
Yeah, might as well give it a plug.
Pam Patton.
Oh, I thought it was in General Patton.
I'm sure she may run the kitchen like a general, but her name is Pam Patton, and she was actually in the human resources at one of the large corporations here in Des Moines, and had always loved to cook, and had learned how to cook at her grandmother's knee. I want to say it was in Louisiana,
Okay.
And started out, kind of exploring the idea of going into food service. So she started catering from home, and then was lucky enough to connect with, I believe, the National Guard, and start catering for them. And as she developed more and more catering clients, really started to see that, that there was a possibility that she could start a restaurant. So she came to some of our classes, basically our big business planning class, which is 30 hours of instruction.
Wow.
And I think if you heard Pam say it, one of the things that she'll say is she really learned what she didn't know before she started her restaurant. And so we helped her throughout that process when she started catering, and then when she started the restaurant business. And more recently, as her business has she now has a restaurant over by the Capitol, we've really helped her with getting the word out about her business. So getting into the press and that sort of thing.
Well, where is it around the Capitol? Do you know?
Yep, it's on East Grand and East 17th. It's on the corner. It's a very nice restaurant. They make lovely chicken and waffles on Thursdays. And I've heard her brunch is amazing, but I have not had it.
And what kind of a restaurant is it? Is it a soul food? Is it?
It's like Southern cuisine.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, Tom.
We have to try that at B&B and then this one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So that's an example of somebody who's been working with us for a long time, for years.
Okay.
And that's really what it takes to help somebody really succeed with a small business.
Now, you're not a source of funding.
No.
You're not like the Small Business Administration.
No. So let me tell you a little bit about our relationship with the Small Business Administration.
Yeah, because I would think that if I took your 30-hour course and added that to my application with the Small Business Administration, they'd be impressed.
Yes. So I think what our course helps you do is really think through your idea very, very carefully and write a strong business plan. We don't write the business plan for you, but we really help you out during that process. The Small Business Administration actually funds my program. So the Women's Business Center is one of 110 women's business centers across the country. And we work with women, really focus on women of low economic means, to help them start and grow businesses. We're sponsored by the SBA, by the Small Business Administration, and by this nonprofit called ISCD Ventures, Iowans for Social and Economic Development. We are not a lender, but we work with our clients to help them prepare for a lending relationship.
Okay.
So among other things, we have bankers and other lenders come to our classes to talk about how you develop a banking relationship, how you apply for loans, what the criteria are for a loan. For a lot of our small businesses, honestly, it's very, very difficult to get a loan. And so we really try to explore how can you get a business going on a much smaller scale. So I think Pam is an excellent example of somebody who did that, who started out with catering, proved that she could do it through catering, developed a customer base, and then started a restaurant. So we'll help people kind of package those loans for a bank. Now, the SBA is also not a direct lender.
Right,
basically, what you do is you apply through a bank,
Yeah.
And the SBA provides a guarantee. But you have to be able to qualify for the bank loan.
Amelia Lobo is our guest today. She's the director of the Women's Business Center, and they also help men, but they mainly help women. It is part of the Iowans Social Economic Development. Now, is the ISED, are they the ones that receive the funds from the Small Business Administration?
Correct. So the Small Business Administration provides about half the funding for the center, and then ISED Ventures is charged with raising the other half of the funds.
So do you go out and fundraise?
My CEO goes out and fundraises,
Okay.
and I do talk to people who are interested in our program, but my work is to run the center.
All right. We've been talking with Amelia Lobo. She's going to hang around for another segment as we learn a little bit more about what the Women's Business Center does here with Iowans Social Economic Development. We're also going to talk a little bit. She is only been in Iowa 5 years. Before that, New York. Before that, Costa Rica. What was the shell shock, the culture shock, when she moved here? We'll talk to her as we continue today, live on Max World with Tom Coates on KTIA, Iowa.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Welcome back on the 26th day of November. We are just a couple days away from Thanksgiving. You may be listening to this on a podcast and you go, huh? It's like December or January. Well, we run shows that are the best of, and this certainly is one. And so you might hear this interview with Amelia Lobo at another time other than Thanksgiving. But we appreciate that you listen to our podcast. We're somewhat amazed, to be honest with you, at the number of our podcasts at Webcast One that are listened to, watched, downloaded. It's kind of remarkable. In fact, Amelia, you and I were talking about this earlier, that one of the challenges you find in working with some people and getting a business started is they're not internet savvy. In fact, they're not even computer savvy. What do you do about that?
That is a really great question. We think of certain skills when we think of preparing for a business. So we think of marketing, we think of being able to do a financial plan, a cash flow, and we certainly teach all of those skills. But we've realized that some of the things that our clients need are very, very basic computer literacy skills. So it's very difficult to teach somebody how to do a website if they aren't comfortable using email, or really have never used a computer at all.
Or how about credit card processing?
Credit card processing, definitely.
Well, that's a bad word to say in front of you, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No. Imagine you're a business owner, and you're a low-income business owner, and you're just starting to get going, and maybe you don't have a lot of working capital, and you can't check your bank balance online regularly. Well, then you're going to have a lot more bounce checks and return fees and all of those things, which actually cost real money. So one of the things that we're doing right now actually is that we are trying to raise money for a computer lab, for a mobile computer lab, which we're going to use to teach our clients the basic computer skills. So how to use word processing, how to do a spreadsheet, how to keep records with QuickBooks. For our more advanced students, how to build websites and how to maintain websites. And there's definitely a continuum, right? Some of our students will start out, maybe with the very basic skills. Others will start out much more advanced to actually be able to manage their own website. Until now, we have not had a computer lab, and so we've had to rely on community partners. But right now, we're doing a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for a computer lab.
That's neat. Amelia Lobo is our guest. She is the director of the Women's Business Center. That's within the Iowans Social Economic Development Group, which is funded by the SBA. They do business education, help women and men start and grow businesses. If you don't have the funds that it takes to take some of their classes and some things like that, they do offer scholarships.
Right. And Amelia, you've answered one of the questions in part that I've had, but I learned a lot of my lessons in the hard knocks, and God, we're not good and gracious. I would not be where we are today. But one of the things that I've observed over the years, back in the days when I used to do a lot of one-on-one counseling, a lot of small business owners would come in for financial counseling. And oftentimes it was virtually impossible to separate out their finances and their debt situation personal to business. They financed their business, as you said earlier in your comments. They oftentimes were unable to get traditional financing for their business. So guess what? They reached into their back pocket. They had some credit cards, and they used the credit cards to finance their business. And there's a high mortality rate, which is what you're trying to mitigate. You're trying to increase the success ratio of some of these businesses, that somebody has an idea and they finance it, on a wing and a prayer, and the credit cards in their pocket. And guess what? Another year or so, they're belly up, but they still have the debt. Unlike corporate debt, which stays with the business, you've got the personal guarantee on the line, and so now they're having to dig out of personal debt one way or another. How often do you deal with that? How much time do you spend in your training on these kind of perils with a small business owner?
Right, that's an excellent question, and I think one of the things that really sets ISCD Ventures apart, or Iowans for Social and Economic Development, apart from other organizations that provide just the business counseling, is that we actually, because we really focus on a whole person and on the family, and so when folks come into our class, want to take our 30-hour business planning class, or even when they come into our center, one of the first things that we do is review their credit report with them. And we are actually part of a nonprofit that allows us to pull the credit report with the score. And we really focus on, when you have a small business, you have to have good credit in order to access loans, first of all. And so the idea is, even before you start the business, let's start working on the credit that's going to help you get loans that, may have personal guarantees, but they're business loans. Let's address some of the issues with debt, with damaged credit well before we get the business going. Let's consider what those limitations are before we get the business going. And so in that sense, let's think about scaling a business, starting out smaller and then making it grow.
So you're doing not only the checking of the credit, but you're also doing some degree, and maybe a lot of degree of budgeting for the individual. How is your personal budget going? What's it going to take? What kind of revenue is going to take to get at least to the critical mass where you can pay your overhead expenses? Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, one of the things that when I teach my business planning classes, and I love teaching cash flows, business cash flows. But what I start out with is, okay, if we're going to start a business, it has to pay us enough to, fulfill all the family obligations, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't just have business expenses.
Right,
You have
absolutely. And we don't, a small business owner, like you said, it's one and the same thing, right? So I'm not going to not feed my children because I need money to buy inventory. That's just not going to work that way. So we start out with, how much money do you need to have in your household budget? And ISCD Ventures actually has a very strong group that does credit counseling and financial education. We have certified credit counselors on staff. And so for those folks who really need help on the credit counseling and the budgeting at the beginning of our work, we highly encourage them to take advantage of our free credit counseling and budgeting resources, and we teach classes in that area as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you find what we find, that most people haven't spent much time on the budgeting, and
Absolutely.
that this is that they're really kind of clueless when they're, and you're surprised at sometimes mature people, not just kids, but mature people that have no clue on what kind of money they're spending on their monthly budget.
Absolutely.
Where it's going.
And I would say that we tend to work with like two different groups of folks. We work with folks who are very low income and underemployed or undereducated, a lot of whom are actually refugees. And then we also work with a lot of folks who have been professionals and either got laid off and haven't been able to go back to the field that they were in, or retired early and want to be consultants in kind of an area similar to what they already know.
Right.
I find that those are the folks that really have a hard time understanding how much they spend on a monthly basis and really budgeting. Whereas I think a lot of times, particularly with my low income clients, my gosh, they understand a cash flow because they know what it's like to be at the end of the money with no money in the bank, or no money in your pocket. So I think the challenges are similar. Where they come from is very different. And I think that that's one of the great things about our classes, that we really mix people with very different backgrounds, different ethnicities, from different places, and very different experiences and different business ideas. And they challenge each other and they support one another. And I think that that's one of the things that really sets our programs apart.
Amelia Lobo is our guest today. She's with the Iowan Social Economic Development Corporation.
Iowans for Social and Economic Development, yes, ISCD Ventures.
Period. And she runs the Women's Business Center. They also do deal with some men. Do you ever ask them this question? Why do you want to be in business for yourself?
No, I never asked them that question. But we do assess people when they come in to make sure that they are committed and that they have an idea that's feasible, that they have, let's say, the experience or the background to make it, to increase their chances of success. ISCD Ventures, my parent organization, really is an asset development organization. And so we focus on helping people develop different assets like home ownership, like savings and investment, like their credit report and their credit score, education, things like that. And so when we think about a business, actually, small business ownership is the second most prevalent way of building assets in our country. So the primary way is through home ownership, and the secondary way is through business ownership. So no, I don't ask them that. A lot of times what people say is, I'm working for somebody else and all my work goes to create wealth for somebody else. I want to create something for me and for my family.
Yeah, but and I'm just going to be the devil's advocate for a minute, and Tom, you chime in here. I've owned multiple businesses in my life. I've failed more than I've succeeded. And the thing that I find most prevalent, excuse me, with people who want to own their own business is they think it's easy. They think it's so much easier to be the boss.
Yeah,
and then I don't have to answer to anybody.
We discourage that, definitely. We definitely hear of people who say, "Oh, it's going to be easier. It's so much more flexible. I can spend more time with my children." And
that's funny.
And we have to say, no, actually, unless your children are going to be working in your business, you'll probably spend less time with your children. Maybe you will have flexibility. Maybe not, so I definitely agree with you. And there are definitely people who come to our first meeting, which is our business prep, where we do the assessment, and they realize they don't want to start a business. And we try to find other resources for them.
Yeah, because sometimes it is easier to just go collect a paycheck and just be careful with how you spend your money, etc.
Well, I think most people are in that category, Mac. I think it's a small percentage. I don't know what you think, Amelia, but I think it's only a small percentage of our population that are really suited to be small or any kind of business owners.
It definitely requires a specific skill set, for sure. And one of those is to be able to accept risk and to be to really feel responsible and to have a locus of control where you feel like you're responsible for your success or failure. One of the things that we definitely see is that immigrants tend to have small businesses at higher rates than non-immigrants. And part of it, I think, is that for a lot of them, that's the model of wealth creation that they're familiar with.
Right.
But also, they lack some of those credentials to get a great job in a traditional workforce.
Sure.
So what they have left, the way to create wealth, is through business
Well, I think
ownership.
we'd be better off we had more of those kind of small businesses rather than less, and I think we need less regulations and taxation that would help us on that.
Amelia Lobo is our guest. Now, can you hang around a little while longer? We have yet to
Absolutely.
talk about the cultural shock. I want to do that with her. She's originally from Costa Rica. We'll talk to her about the difference in that area and home, which we call Iowa, next on Mac's World on webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave. and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crab, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to maxworldlive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 22 before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News updating us at the top of the hour, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue from Westkirk Presbyterian Church from 4 to 4:30. Our guest today is Amelia Lobo. She is with the Iowans for Social and Economic Development Ventures, and she is the director of the Women's Business Center. They also deal with men, but mainly it's women. And one of their successful ventures is a place called Patton's Restaurant. Is that right?
Yes.
And I just looked it up, and they're on the internet and everything. You guys, what a beautiful website. So you taught her how to do this website?
No, we did not work with her on the website.
Okay. And it looks like they're kind of a southern cooking kind of place. Ooh, Tom, fried chicken. Man, I'm hungry now. And so we talked a lot about what she does with the Women's Business Center, but I'm intrigued by, first of all, you already know this, but you're a very intelligent person. You're well educated, all right? You were born and raised in Costa Rica until you were 18.
Yes.
You came to Grinnell College
Yes.
first. Then you went to New York, and you lived in New York how long?
The first time around, I was only there for a year.
Okay. Let's talk about the culture shock of an 18-year-old girl coming from, is it a developing country or a third world country? What's the right?
Developing
Developing
world.
country. Had you ever been to America?
Yes. So my mom is actually from Iowa. She's from Southeast Iowa.
Okay.
And so I had been here, visiting my family. But when I moved to Grinnell to start school there, had been the first time I had been on campus there.
How did she end up in Costa Rica?
She studied abroad there and met my dad. Never came back.
Never came back. All right. And what is something about Costa Rica that Tom and I don't know?
Well, it has wonderful weather. It's warm all year round, but never terribly hot.
Okay.
One of the things that you don't maybe know is that it holds about 5% of the world's biodiversity, even though it's
well, back up out of biodiversity.
That's a big word for us. You better back that down,
I don't know
Amelia.
what that means.
So about 5% of the different there's a lot of different species in Costa Rica because of where it is in the Americas and the different kinds of climates that it has. So it's tremendously diverse.
Some of those things I'm sure were introduced by sailors and what have you over the
actually that's a problem when sailors introduce things because a lot of times they don't have competition for resources, so it can actually be really bad. But no, for the most part, Costa Rica has tons and tons of native species. I think there's over 500 species of birds in Costa Rica, and then just all kinds of tropical
What's the population of Costa Rica?
It's about 4 million people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more than our state of Iowa and the whole Costa Rica.
Now most of the people in Costa Rica live in the Central Valley. which is very small.
All right, now I know I could look this up on my internet, and it's right here, but I'm not going to do that because there may be listeners who also want to know, where is it?
Okay, it's right between Nicaragua and Panama in Central America.
So it's below Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not quite to Africa.
Well, Africa
Or
would
South
be
America.
South America, yes.
Right.
It's just north of Colombia.
Okay. And is it, does it look like Waukee, Iowa, or Adel, Iowa, or
No.
Des Moines?
No.
It looks like a village?
No, it's, well, most people live in the greater metropolitan area in San Jose, and that has over 1 million people. So
Would
it's
it
actually
look
bigger.
mountainous and jungle
It's
further
very
up much of the territory?
mountainous. Yeah, it's very mountainous, and there's a lot of different ecosystems. And so one of those would be a tropical rainforest, which is what we think of, I think, when we think jungle. And actually, Costa Rica has more than a quarter of its land is protected.
By?
Through national parks and reserves.
It obviously has some beaches, and obviously the resort. How much of the
Gorgeous
tourism
beaches.
is part of the economy? What percentage of the?
I couldn't tell you for sure, but I know that it's either the first or second largest industry in terms of, it's
got to be big.
Its impact on GDP. It's actually become more and more of a place where multinationals do their back office outsourcing. And also there's a lot of medical devices and computer devices that are
Good labor force at a good price, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a highly educated labor force.
Why is it highly educated? That is the opposite of what I thought.
Well, Costa Rica is different from probably most other developing countries in that it actually had free and compulsory primary education in the 1850s, even before the U.S. And it makes a tremendous investment in education. It traditionally has had a lot of investment in education.
Primary language, Spanish.
Spanish.
English is a strong second language type of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Most of the schools teach English from preschool up.
Okay.
I'm so ignorant, I'm sorry, but are you a country amongst yourself, or are you a British colony? Or
No. So Costa Rica, like the rest of Central America, was a Spanish colony until the 1820s. 1821.
By Spain?
Yep.
Okay. And then did you fight for your independence, or was it granted to you?
It was granted.
Okay.
It was Costa Rica was part of an administration unit out of Guatemala. And there was a lot of political changes going on in Spain, and the faction that came in granted independence to all of Central America. And then there was some fighting afterwards because some groups wanted to maintain their ties to Spain or still be part of Spain. But no, there was no independence fight in the way that we think of it in the U.S.
Okay. Growing up as a little girl in Costa Rica, and again, I'm sorry if I'm ignorant, do you have cable TV?
Yes. Yeah, we did, but it was only one channel. I mean, this was the 80s, right?
Well, today, what is it?
It's the same as here.
All right.
Yeah.
And full plumbing?
Yes.
For everybody or most people?
Most people.
Okay. What's the worst thing about Costa Rica?
Oh, I would say that the way that the government is organized makes it very difficult to govern. I would say that's one of the things.
Is it a democracy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not a democracy. Or do you consider us the same?
We're
a republic.
It's a republic.
You're a republic.
You're a republic also.
Yeah.
I mean,
so everybody's
people
elected.
oftentimes use democracy to describe
Right.
our form of government. Mac is exactly right.
It is
It
a
isn't
republic.
set up as a
Yep.
democracy. It's a republic, and you are as well.
Yep.
And your frustration with the government centers around what?
Well, I just think that the way that the government is organized makes it difficult to.
Do you have a parliamentary system? Are you
no,
have a Congress like
it's a
we
Congress like the U.S., but some of the differences are, for example, that Congress people cannot run in consecutive terms. So every 4 years, the entire Congress flips over.
Wow, that is a problem. We like the concept of some term limitation, so they don't go there and live there till they die.
Right.
As our congressman.
Right.
But we also don't like the idea of turnovers every couple of years. That doesn't allow for any kind of experience or wisdom to be imparted, does it?
Right. It makes it much more difficult.
Point.
Now it's different from the U.S. in the sense that it's a small country, and so it's mostly governed from a central government.
Would you
It's
have a
not
guy like
federal.
Harkin that would go in, stay there for decades, and become a multimillionaire while he's in there? You don't have
Well,
that.
I'm not sure that I really want to talk politics, but no, you couldn't.
Amelia Lobo is our guest. She is the head director of the Women's Business Center here in town. She's from Costa Rica, so we asked her to stay around a little bit longer just to pick her brains on Costa Rica. Does it feel democratically the same way America does? Do you feel free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we're going to hang around a little bit longer because we still haven't got to what I want to talk about, and that's this cultural shock that she had from Costa Rica to Grinnell to New York to Iowa City and then back to Des Moines. So she's with us for our last segment, and that's next. With Tom Coates, I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Get away from my Sumito credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
9 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News at the top, and then Michael Mudloff with Westkirk Presbyterian Church. And True Blue, Tom Coates is in today on a Tuesday. Today's my Friday.
Well, let me make a plug. I've been asked to go on and do Great Day, KCWI, tomorrow morning at 9:20. So if any of your listeners are watching Great Day, KCWI, tomorrow at 9:20, I'll be in giving them the ABCs of how to not to blow yourself up into Black Friday and into the Christmas shopping season.
Why don't you talk about politics?
They had asked me to talk about politics.
Maybe I'll call in.
Mr. Coates. Last time I was on there, I talked about the problems with the casino, and that went fairly well. They held me to a second segment, and they say they seldom do that. So it was rough and tumble on the casino. That was fun.
I'll try to
It'll
listen
be a little
to you
more
tomorrow.
sedate tomorrow.
All right. Amelia Lobo is our guest today, and along with being part of the Iowan Social Economic Development Ventures Corporation, she is the director of the Women's Business Center. But she is also a Are you an American citizen?
Yes.
But you were born and raised in Costa Rica.
Yes.
All right. And you went to New York.
Yes.
And what was the first culture shock you had about New York? The first thing that you faced and you went, oh my gosh, I never thought in a million years I'd have to deal with blank.
I think one of the first things that I went through was it was very difficult to find an apartment. And you had to pay a broker about, at that time, 17% of a year's rent.
Oh my.
To get an apartment. So it would be like $800 or $900 when they really didn't do a thing.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first shock.
And what service or what industry did you work in?
When I first moved to New York, I worked in the mutual fund industry.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you worked where?
Then I went to business school, and when I came back, I worked in insurance, professional liability insurance.
So you're in the second largest insurance capital in the world in Des Moines, Iowa. Why aren't you in insurance? Why aren't you in investments anymore?
Well, I got out of insurance a long time ago to go to nonprofit to basically to do microfinance and now micro business. So the insurance actually that I have experience in is not really practiced here in Des Moines.
So what should Iowans appreciate that we don't about Iowa, about where we live?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that we really need to appreciate. I think one of the things that has really, really struck me moving, particularly to Des Moines, is just the amount of time that people give as volunteers to things that they really, really care about.
A lot?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's just tremendously impressive. And I think that's one of the things that, to me, has been very special about being in Des Moines.
And what's something you don't like about Des Moines?
The
weather doesn't count.
I was going to say the weather, okay,
I'm
but so
talking
you
about
can't say that.
Our community.
I wish that there was more retail and more small businesses in downtown Des Moines.
Oh yeah, there's no retail in downtown Des Moines.
And I do wish that the public transportation was maybe a little bit stronger.
I've heard that from many people before. If you could open up your own small business, what would it be?
Wow. Okay. Well, I did briefly have a small business as a consultant for nonprofits. If I could open up my own small business, I would. One of the things that I had kind of thought about was a place where kids could hang out after school. So that would have like pool tables and arcades and that sort of thing, but no alcohol. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how successful I would be with that. Probably not very.
Yeah, you'd fail.
Which is probably a good thing.
Well,
but I'm not doing that.
And I'll tell you why. And it's been tried over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's because, unfortunately, the crowd that kind of business draws
wants alcohol.
And they're troublemakers. Mm. And there are older men, and that might be 25 or 30, who go in and prey on the 14 to 17-year-olds who aren't females, who aren't getting attention at home from dad or whoever. We've had different people try those different businesses, and unfortunately, they have always failed because there's not one here.
Yeah, there aren't any, that in New York either that I can really think of.
We had one in West Des Moines, and they tried, and they had nothing but drug issues. They had nothing but complaints from parents about their little girls being hit upon, and half the time the parents didn't realize the little girls were not acting properly themselves, so they were attracting a little bit of that. But what about a retail business? What's your passion? Are you a cook? Are you a chef? Are you a sewer? Are you a dressmaker? Are you
No, we do have a client who's a dressmaker who's very, very talented. No, I like handbags.
Handbags?
Yes.
So if I went to your closet at home, I wouldn't find
and shoes.
Oh,
yes.
I'd find shoes and handbags.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
are you a name brand handbag person, or are you a color? No.
Color, yes.
You like color. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Costa Rica, what was your impression of America before you had any real experience?
I guess I should say, too, that my big dream in terms of a small business is to retire to the beach and have a sushi restaurant.
In Costa Rica?
Yes.
Okay.
I like it.
What was my impression of the U.S. when I was a child?
Yeah, growing up. Were you aware of us? Well, of course you were, because your mom was from
the
here.
States. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I definitely I don't know that I had so much of an awareness of the United States, but I definitely had an awareness of Iowa because that's where my family was from. And so I probably would have said, farms and...
Did you have farm animals in Costa Rica?
No, I grew up in the city.
Okay.
We did at one point have chickens, but that was very unsuccessful.
So first time you saw a cow was in Iowa?
No, I mean, we have farms in Costa Rica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Amelia, I sure appreciate you taking the time to come in for Tom and I today and tell us about your incredible business center for people. And next time I hear of a young lady or a young man who wants to start a business, I will send them your way.
Absolutely. And if I can let you know what our website is,
Please
and
do.
folks can see our services and also register for our classes, it's www.isedventures.org. And we're also on Facebook at ISED Women's Business Center.
Okay, good. All right. We very much appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much. You're a wonderful
You're
addition
welcome.
to our community.
Thank you.
And you're welcome anytime.
Thank you very much. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure.
All right, Coach, so you're going to feed the family at 12 for $60 tomorrow.
Yep, I'm going to do
That's
it. Well,
$5 a head.
Day after tomorrow, that's right. Tomorrow's
You are
Wednesday.
cheap.
I thought it was a pretty good deal.
It was an excellent deal. All right. Well, and until I see you again, which won't be till next Monday, remember on Thursday to drop to your knees and thank the good Lord for all the great things that he gives you, including just the opportunity to live in an amazing country. Until then, until I see you again, just pray.